more because in 2026, the UN Secretary General selection is happening, and for the first time, there is an unprecedented global mobilization demanding this change. And more importantly, Pakistan sits on the UN Security Council this year, which makes this question all the more pertinent. Now, before we begin, I would like to mention some housekeeping rules. Kindly keep your microphones on when you're not speaking. For online participants, please use the Q&A box for your questions. These will be addressed by speakers live. And please also note that this seminar is being recorded and will be uploaded to STPI's YouTube channel. So if you would like to revisit any part of this dialogue, you'll be able to find it there. The session is also being live streamed on STPI's Facebook and other social media platforms, including Twitter and LinkedIn. I would now like to invite Dr. Shafqat Munir, who is a research fellow and also the Deputy Executive Director for Policy at STPI, to formally open today's dialogue with his welcome remarks. Dr. Shafqat, over to you.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, everyone, for joining this seminar. I think the importance is pretty much clear, as Aisha has narrated the history of UN and why at this juncture of time we need women leadership at the UN level. When I was working with UN in the global and regional position, I want to share my experience working with women leaders. So when I was posted in Asia Pacific Center in Bangkok at the United Nations headquarters, there was a woman leader, Eileen. She was a wonderful Assistant Secretary of General. Of course, it is a post which is after the Secretary General, but Assistant Secretary General or Under Secretary General is called for the region, Asia Pacific. She was a wonderful leader, and I worked under her leadership. And she organized a big Asia Pacific conference when she invited the earlier Secretary General Boutros Ghali. Before this, Guterres, there was the earlier one, Secretary General. So when he came and he made a speech at the UN headquarters, Asia Pacific headquarters in Bangkok, and he praised like anything that Eileen was doing at that time. And then the UN progress, I have noticed myself, and because I served under her leadership. Then second example is when I left UN headquarters in Asia Pacific in Bangkok. So our own Dr. Our Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, who was the governor of State Bank of Pakistan, she replaced Eileen, and then she, shown her leadership at the UN Asia Pacific level. Now I will come why I am giving this, background to you, so that we can understand how women leadership has played their role within the UN system. When I had, I just want to say I was not there at UN under leadership of Dr. Shamshad. But I tell you, the Asian colleagues told me, those who were my colleague earlier, but they were staying at UN, I came to SDPI. They later told how Dr. Shamshad Akhtar was providing a leadership role. So they were amazed. They were praising that, like even the the Western people, those who think that they are the best leader, they admitted that Dr. Ishrat was the best among them. And similarly, if you look at, I work with different INGOs, and luckily I had served under all women leaders at global positions. So and now even at the moment, if you look at Oxfam, if you can look at Save the Children, other, they had great women leaders with them. And within the countries now, the leaders are women, the prime ministers, presidents, they are women, and also holding the speakership of various assemblies in the countries. And our sister Shaista Parvez is there, and she is playing a great role in. If you, I look the National Assembly, how these women under Shaista Parvez Sahib and other, how they are doing and how they are motivational for the legislation on humanitarian issues and on particularly on women, children, another. So I have seen all these examples here. So now I would come here why we need one for the 8 billion, which is your theme, Aisha, for the seminar today. See, if you look around, I was looking at the proportion of population. If you look at the proportion of population in the next, by 2050, if you look at the senior level people, the older people, those who are always, elected or they have competition at these positions, they would already, the women would already outnumber men. They would be around 59% by 2050 in the senior leadership roles. So now there is a time that we need to break this silence or the ice, what you call, and we should rightly playing our role from SDPI to start with this seminar. Not only this seminar, we will continue with this campaign more. I, as a global campaigner, I understand that once a movement is started and that reaches to the level of, even the developing countries, then certainly that movement comes up for implementation. I just want to quote another global campaign which I led in my role. It was Hunger Free Women Global Campaign. It was in 90 countries when I was working in my international role with another uh, international organization. Believe me, under that campaign, for the first time, women were given a leadership role in various countries in Asia, Pacific, Africa, Latin America, and other countries. Hunger Free Women was a campaign that women, they are the grower of the food, but they are food insecure because they don't own land. So the campaign was that land should be in the name of women, and the control of the land should be on women, and their decision should be there that they what they want to grow and what they want to harvest. So in this campaign also we had even in Vietnam, there is a socialist government. In China, the women got the ownership role of the land ownership role or land possession role, not the ownership as such we have in Pakistan, but they have a certificate which shows that this land is under possession of this person. So for the first time, as a campaign, this leadership role came there, and there are many examples across the world, across the region, where women are leading. So now there is a time that UN is, and UN has already started building up this kind of momentum, because I know when I was in UNDP in Bangkok regional office, there was a movement that civil society should be part of the UN systems. Earlier, UN motto of the UN was government of the government. But now UN doesn't say government of the government. Now they say people accountability is with the government. And that is why UNDP in its headquarters in New York has set up a civil society secretariat where all women leaders are leading on it. Then inter-agency steering committees in the region, in countries, they are also already led by women leaders. I'm telling about the UN systems at this level. Only the level short of is Secretary General, only at that level, now there has not been the one woman, but now we are seeking for one so that they can lead to the 8 billion people. Because my experience working with women leader is very positive and pessimistic. I understand they think differently. I tell you, despite being that I am a male, but I served even in my career as journalist. I served under Dr. Malia Lodi, so I got a lot of things from her. Even my diplomatic, when I went to the UN and on the diplomatic mission, I had the learning which I had from Dr. Malia Zaba. So that there is no question now that women can lead. Even if you look at SDPI, you can see now all the young women, they are leading on their projects. Nobody is stopping them. So that is the time that from a lower scale of an organization to a country to the nation and then to region and to global, there is a need that now women should lead. Not they are leading, but they should be in the top leadership position, which is the Secretary General. So with this, I would like to express the commitment by SDPI that we will not hold until only for this seminar. We will be part of this campaign for long, and we will also have regional connectivity with our regional partners. We will take it up to the region, and then region plus region, south to south cooperation region, and then to the north south. So we will take this debate on, and I would like to thank Shaista Sahaba, Umaira Sahaba, Umaira Mufti, Aisha, and other those who are joining this seminar. On behalf of SDPI, once again, thank you very much, Aisha. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Shafqat, for these very relevant remarks and for sharing your experiences on how important women leadership is and how indispensable their role has been in your experiences, and how this conversation is not just timely, it is very urgent. So before we move on to our panel, I would like to take a few minutes to walk us through the context and evidence base for this dialogue. I'll be presenting some of the key findings from the policy brief that we have developed under this project with Southern Voice, and it has been co-authored by Ms. Sadia Sathi and myself, and it will be soon launching. If I can please request the IT team to display the slides.
Yes, it is there.
Okay, thank you. So as the United Nations approaches its 80th anniversary, we are facing this profound crisis of multilateralism and representation. And that is because UN women, under UN, there has been 9 male secretaries general, and there has not been a single woman. And appointing a female secretary general who represents 8 billion people is not just a question of demographic equity now, it is an operational necessity in a very increasingly fragmented world. If we can please move on to the next slide. Now, the lack of women at the very top, as we just saw that we do not have any female secretary general up until now, it is not just this isolated incident. It is the result of a broken system that holds women back at every single level of global politics. And looking at the history, that 93% of UN permanent representatives have been men historically, and 72 countries have never appointed a female permanent representative. And what this actually looks like in practice is that there have been 20 entire years where the UN General Assembly met, and there was not a single female representative in the room. Which is concerning. And onto the next slide, if we also look at the historical timeline, the process of evolution that which Natalie, who also co-founded the 1 for 8 billion campaign, recently wrote and called it a papal conclave, which means that it is as secretive as choosing a pope. And the wider UN membership historically was confined only to rubber stamping whoever the P5 agreed was least objectionable and suited to their interests. And even other members of the Security Council, other than the P5, the permanent 5 members, they were in the dark and they were not privy to the P5's secret bargaining. And before recent reforms in 2016, there was not even a job description or a real list of candidates who were standing for the Secretary General position. And the broader UN just basically nodded to whoever the P5 picked and they went along. But by working with the states and the civil society, the campaign has helped change this. And in 2016, 7 of the candidates in the last race, they were women, which is a huge step. And there were incremental reforms like public hearings, and then there were published CVs. And these measures also tried, but they failed to dismantle the Security Council's veto monopoly or the secretive straw polls. And also, P5 strongly opposed the most vital reform, which was proposed by the civil society in this 2016 reforms, which was a single non-renewable 7-year term for the Secretary General. And why this single non-renewable term is important. If we can move on to the next slide, please. It is important because for decades, as explained, this selection process, it has functioned as this secretive mechanism. And Article 97 of the UN Charter, it gives the Security Council the sole recommendation power, and all of the influence is concentrated among the P5. And now, since we have the option of 2 terms, the incumbent, the current Secretary Generals, they seek a second term, and they're just forced to continuously appease to P5 members because there's this chance of a second term. And this is driving a system of mutualism where high-level bureaucratic roles, they're promised for political support. And as a result, 20% of under-Secretary General roles, they go to P5 nationals, which is nearly 10 times higher than it is proportional. If we can please move on to the next slide. Now, as we approach the 2026 cycle, we are witnessing a reversal. And the reversal is that during recent negotiations, although an otherwise fragmented P5, they essentially united and they teamed up in a very damage control mode to block more reforms after 2016. They shut down ideas like holding advisory votes in the General Assembly or recommending more than one candidate. Even the push to exclusively nominate women, which was brought on by other states, it was watered down by the P5 to a weak suggestion to merely strongly consider them. The wording to the wording other than this was considered too ambitious. So it was reduced to just strongly consider women for the role of Secretary General. If we can move on to the next slide, please. And this is not because the lack of a Secretary General who is female. It's not because there are not any qualified women who don't exist. It's that they have to walk through what we and other researchers call a glass labyrinth. Now, it is a constant maze of pushback from the very entry-level jobs to the top. And even when they do make it to the top, they're often pushed onto a glass cliff. And its example is Ngozi, who was heading the World Trade Organization, and she was given the reins of the organization during a massive crisis. And it drew way more scrutiny than a man would ever get. And the senior African leaders, they had to publicly condemn the appointment as being sexist and racist. If we can move on to the next slide. Now, a very critical mechanism of this labyrinth is also institutional sorting. Researcher Kirsten identifies this as glass walls, where women are systematically sidelined into soft, feminine coded portfolios like welfare and human rights. And by heavily representing them in these areas, they are kept out of the hard, strategic, and problematically masculine coded portfolios like international security and trade. And the system hence actively denies women the credentials that are traditionally demanded for leadership positions. Another very important phenomena in the next slide is that we need to rethink what people assume good leadership looks like. We, in our heads, mostly associate it with the male leaders and the masculine traits, which are also that way because they're socialized that way, being aggressive and transactional and dominant. But the data actually shows, as has been shared in our brief as well, that female leaders, they often use transformational leadership, which is building teams and then flattening hierarchies and being more cooperative when crises hit. And experimental economics and behavioral game theory also suggests that female leaders, they lean towards this transformational leadership style, which is also because they're socialized that way, and it's not, because they're born this way. And they demonstrate higher levels of cooperativeness and empathy and consensus building. And why these leadership styles are important? They're important because there's this phenomena called think manager, think male, because these stylistic divergences, because of, again, societal socialization, they over-rely on this single male-coded leadership, which is of assertiveness, of dominance, of non-cooperation. And this is linked with male leaders only, and as the only successful form of leadership. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Now, because global leadership is viewed through this masculine lens, female candidates, they face a profound dilemma, which is theorized under rule congruity theory, or which is also called the double blind. And this is that women have this very sort of precarious corridor to navigate, that if they display the required diplomatic assertiveness, as I just mentioned, that is associated with a successful leader, they face severe professional penalties for violating gender norms, because they're expected to be more conforming to cooperativeness and empathy. And because of this masculine standard, women are caught in this double blind, that if they act tough and assertive, they're not considered feminine enough. And because a man is the default for these roles, a woman has to be completely overqualified just to be considered basically competent. And it's a paradox where the bar is set way higher for women than it is for men. If you can move on to the next slide, please. Now, a very pertinent example of this is the 2016 race, the last general secretary race, which was that a candidate, Susanna, observed this, and she quoted that female candidates, they faced inherently gendered critiques, which were that they were viewed as either too forceful or they're too accommodating. And despite 7 highly qualified female candidates who ran in the race, and they also demonstrated superior policy command, they were systematically eliminated in secretive straw polls by the P5 members in the Security Council. And this resulted in only 1 woman being placed in the top 5. And it is also very important to note that at that time, 14 of the 15 Security Council members who were making these decisions, they were all men. And moving on to the importance of why the representation of women in peace and security is so important, and in diplomatic roles is so important. If we can move on to the next slide. Women have been in charge for long, but their impactful leadership, if we quantify it, it literally makes the world safer. And there's data to back that. Demographic conflict research indicates that a mere 5% increase in the proportion of women in a national legislature, it decreases the state's likelihood to use state-sponsored violence by nearly 5 times. And when women make up 35% in a legislature or assemblies, the risk of civil conflict, relapse, it approaches absolutely 0. That is the significance of women leadership in national legislature, in diplomatic treaties, and beyond. And we just saw how important their representation is. And onto the next slide, we'll see that how much of a cost we have had to pay because of their exclusion from conflict resolution. According to this data, the presence of women, it alters the durability of peace agreements. If women are meaningfully involved in negotiating, a peace agreement is 35% more likely to last at least 15 years. And on the other hand, if they're not involved, as was the case of 39 peace agreements that were analyzed as part of a study, 31 of them had 0 women at the table and they failed. And also, we have seen female peacekeepers significantly enhancing vital information gathering and reducing instances of gender-based violence, because, of course, women feel more comfortable sharing their instances of if they've been a victim with other women. So there are also important communication channels that need to be kept open. If we can move on to the next slide. now we have this data showing why their inclusion is important, why their exclusion is harmful. But despite this, the Security Council, it has operated for the past 80 years with a very safe choice bias. And they have other important, debatable important priorities at hand. And the members of the Security Council, they favor inoffensiveness, and they favor someone who would just not rock the boat and who would just keep the status quo going over visionary leadership. And that is why that a candidate who would not rock the boat is vastly more likely to secure a recommendation than a transformational feminist leader who challenges existing power imbalances, and those power imbalances who are which are very much in the favor of the P5 members of the Security Council. If we can move on to the next slide, please. Now, this is why today's dialogue is so important, and this conversation is so important to have, that the procedure and for the Secretary General selection and the window for the intervention is rapidly closing as we exceedingly increase and approach the 2026 race end. And the timeline involves public hearings. These Secretary General selection timelines, they involve public hearing in early 2026. And then the critical intervention point is mid-2026, when the Security Council commences its secretive straw polls. And the absolute deadline for an appointment is December 2026, 31st December. So the timing is paramount, and as we can see in the next slide, that we're seeing massive global mobilization. The statements tracker, which has been developed by New York University Center for Global Affairs, it indicates that as of late 2025, 145 countries, they have publicly raised concerns regarding the UN's gender imbalance. And over 2/3 of the UN membership, they want these reforms and they support these procedural reforms, proving that the P5 are now the outliers who are actively blocking this discussion, which is being brought up by civil society time and again. On to the next slide, please. This brings us to the E10, the 10 non-permanent members of the Security Council. And they hold this sort of key to the 2026 election, because to get an official recommendation, a candidate needs 9 votes. That means that a unified group of just 7 E10 members, if 7 of the non-elected, non-permanent E10 members, they unite, they can block any nominee that fails the gender parity test. And the problem is that E10 right now is not totally unified, and it's currently divided. And onto the next slide, please. This is where Pakistan is in a really strategic spot. Our seat on the Security Council, it is lining up perfectly with the mid-2026 vote, and we already have this strong track record of women, peace and security agenda. We have deployed female engagement teams, and we can use that credibility to lead the E10. Pakistan can lead the E10, and it can push back against the P5's secrecy and demand a female Secretary General. But to actually get there, onto the next slide, please. To actually get there, we can't just suggest things anymore. We have to demand very strongly that only female candidates are nominated. And the Security Council needs to give the General Assembly a real choice by recommending at least 2 candidates. And we need a 7-year term to kill the appeasement culture, which favors the power imbalances that have been historically created by the P5 members. And the General Assembly also needs to hold its own straw polls so everyone's voice is heard, and the straw polls are not just secretive in the Security Council. Onto the final slide, please. Now, this 2026 election, it is a very definitive test of the UN's legitimacy of representing 8 billion people. And transparency is great, but without this structural disruption, which Pakistan does have the ability and also the competence to create, we're just going to keep doing the same thing that has been happening for the past 80 years. And we cannot let 8 billion people be governed by this secretive backroom deals of 5 countries and their transactional deals that continue to favor them. And it is time to align our leadership with demand that the first Secretary General be elected. Then move on to our panel. We are joined by 3 distinguished speakers today. There is Ms. Humaira, who is Secretary of the National Commission of the Status of Women. We're also joined by Ms. Shaista Parvez Malik, who is the Women Political Leaders Ambassador for the National Assembly of Pakistan, and Dr. Humaira Ashfaq, who is the chairperson at the International Islamic University, Istanbul. We're very pleased to have you with us, and to get the discussion started, I will head over to Ms. Humaira, Secretary, National Commission on the Status of Women first. Ms. Humaira, the NCSW has a constitutional mandate to push for gender equality across Pakistan's public and policy sector, but there is often a gap between what a country commits and how it actually behaves on the world stage. So as these leadership gaps persist throughout the diplomatic and political areas, there is a growing need for concrete commitments to champion women's leadership. So according to NCSW's mandate, what specific policy changes, according to you, are required within Pakistan's own public and diplomatic sectors to actively identify and prepare and support women in navigating all of these barriers that we just discussed, and in helping them move into high-level multilateral roles? Over to you, Ms. Humaira.
Thank you, Aisha. I'm really happy to be part of this consultative format that STPI has put in place. I would request Ma'am Shaista Parvez, being the senior, to take the lead and give her statement, and then I would definitely comment on what you have just stated. She's our leader. We look up to her, and it's really an honor to see Ma'am Shaista. You please take lead, and then I'm going to speak. Thank you. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much. And I'm thankful to STPI for taking up this very important format. I think it is the need of the hour, and we miss that humane touch at the top level at this moment of crisis, when the world is going through a series of overlapping conflicts, crises, and we see the missing humane part of it. So I must congratulate STPI also, and Dr. Shafkat, and to Aisha, who've given a very comprehensive briefing. You know, what I feel it is very important, yes, but it is not a pipeline, sort of a problem. It is power and a process problem. We have to address this, and I hope, because a leadership which doesn't reflect the people's trust, and it doesn't have that humane touch, and if it doesn't inspire the people, the leader at the top is not good enough. So I feel at the moment also, what we need to do is, I hope this conversation of ours today goes beyond advocacy, and it is towards action that we move. We have to have the reforming, the solution, the process, the building of political will, ensuring that the next Secretary General is a woman. It has to have transparency. It has to have, Dr. Sahab has also proved that there's no dearth of capability. It is just that when women are given that enabling environment, and they have proven themselves all over the world, not only in Pakistan, we at a very small level are struggling to gain our grounds, but all over the world, the women have proved themselves to be leaders. And it's not about merit. It's not about capabilities. It is about opportunities that they are provided at the top. And it is very sad that after 9 male members, even where the UN talks about equality, SDG 5, they have not done their walk. I mean, they have not walked their talk themselves. So it needs that we have to work out a system, and with you all learned women, I feel you are very learned, experienced, and we need to modernize. I mean, this is a chance the UN has to modernize and to inspire and lead by example. You know, we need to lead by example. We should be reflecting to what we say. So I think it's a good time to have started on this, and we need to now move forward and see and discuss that how we can shape it up. And now that we have the opportunity, the time, we should strongly and very clearly move forward that the system works better for the women. So I think a lot of things we've seen in the presentation also, but how to move forward and where we should structure our plan and then accordingly move towards it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shaista, for your very relevant and pertinent points regarding the issue not being merit or capabilities, but it being opportunity and lack of it, and how UN is now responsible for representing the women of the world. Now, if we can please move on to Ms. Humaira Mufti for her remarks.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you very much. And I will echo what we are supposed to move beyond this conversation, and this conversation should be held in the corridors of power within Pakistan and also at the parliament and within the ministries. I would just highlight the role of Pakistani women leaders, the foreign secretary leading in a very mature way, and the way she was handling the whole situation, the arrival of the guest, and since I'm part of the government, I'm aware of what goes behind the scene, and nobody sees how effectively and smoothly the work was done by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and credit goes to the women who are leading. So if Pakistan can handle such intricate and tough dialogue, ably led by a woman from behind the scenes, so imagine if such women are leading at the UN level, what an impact it would make. Luckily, I also have Paris for 5 years. So at that time, it was almost a women-led organization. Ma'am Irina Bokova was the DG UNESCO. And we had 2 deputy director generals leading the UNESCO. And within the science sector and in all the, I would say that there was a deliberate effort by UNESCO to ensure that more and more women are at the higher and senior level positions. What difference it made at UNESCO? The gender mainstreaming across all the 5 sectors of UNESCO was ensured, from the culture, preservation of cultural heritage, the World Heritage Properties, and the role of women, and traditional knowledge, women and education during disaster, ensuring that women get access to education. And luckily, I was able to establish the Malala Fund for Girls' Right to Education at UNESCO. The government of Pakistan contributed $10 million. The fund provided education facility to women and girls in the conflict, and also countries which were marred by terrorism, and it included Pakistan. And $7 million, we brought it back to Pakistan, and UNESCO country office was implementing that. And I would say that traditionally it is held that security is the domain, or peace process is the domain of, it's a very male-dominated thing. And I think lately Pakistan has also accepted that women are an essential part of the peace process, or you will see more and more women joining police services, in judiciary, I specialized in national security studies and counterterrorism and radicalization. So there's a bigger acceptability within the government of Pakistan to give more space to women in the traditional sectors which were supposed to be dominated by men, or as per our culture. So I think that the same openness that the government of Pakistan is maintaining within the government, within the public sector, and the private sector is also very vibrant. I think Pakistan is in a position to lead from the front. For that to happen, we need to have a dialogue with Ministry of Foreign Affairs and other bigger actors who are quite influential, and prepare a list of women trailblazers from Pakistan who meet all the four corners, not only in terms of requirements, but who are really competent. From the public sector and from the private sector, I think we have a great space. Regarding the procedure, I think this advocacy event, I'm not sure about the previous way the negotiations are held at New York. I just came to know it through your research paper. I have to commend it. It's a very intense, and it's a very it's a brilliant piece of paper, and looking at the data and the way you have built your argument. I think we are slightly late in the process because the window is very narrow, and we are looking at the mid of 2026. So I don't know how this will move forward and at what pace. And P5 and all these, they have a mindset, and not only that mindset, it's really ingrained deeply. It is very deep rooted into the UN system. So we have to look at how UNESCO broke through the tradition of having all men leading UNESCO, and how they ensured that a woman was not only elected once, she was elected twice. And now we have Ma'am Azoulay from France leading UNESCO, and it's quite impressive the way UNESCO has broken this glass ceiling and the glass dome that you showed, and the glass corridors and the labyrinth that women have to wade through or to find their way within the UN system. I think there are some organizations from which a lot of lessons can be learned. And I specifically like this part of your research where you identified that the PRs are mostly men. But luckily, Pakistan is one of the odd countries out again, showing not once or twice, but a number of times with very strong women leaders. So I think, and I will tell you, it was really flattering for me at UNESCO that people would come and always appreciate Ma'am Shahnaz Wazir Ali, Ma'am Atiya, and all the leaders who were on the executive board of UNESCO, and they would say, we are so used to Pakistani women breaking through the barriers and building bridges within the UN system. So it's not just about being a woman, it's about your ability to negotiate through the tough political dialogues that are taking place. Even at UNESCO, when we were discussing safety of journalists, or we were discussing a UN action plan or UNDRR strategy, Ma'am Shahnaz Wazir Ali was the executive board member, and she was able to bring a lot of divergent views. And even during conflict of Syria, I saw how leadership was provided by Pakistani women sitting at the UN and at important juncture. So they are beyond political identities. When you go abroad, you become a Pakistani woman with a very strong identity and a history of women leaders, a country that has given the first prime minister to the world, a woman prime minister. So we are, and now I look at Ma'am Shaista Parvez leading at different forums, and it's an amazing. We are like an academy which is producing immense women of leadership qualities, and I think that tradition must continue. And we have to invite applicants from the private sector and the public sector, and I'm sure it's going to go a long way. And also at the same time work with Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I would request Ma'am Shaista Parvez to take on that responsibility. We'll use our influence as civil servants to push for more women nominations from Pakistan. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Humaira, for your very pertinent remarks and for highlighting the increasing acceptance that we are seeing in the public and private sector of Pakistan, and for highlighting women such as Ms. Amna Baloch, Foreign Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and their indispensable roles that they're playing. Now, I would want to move on to Dr. Humaira Ishfaq for her input. Dr. Humaira, as presented in the presentation, that the evidence points to this lifelong socialization that men and also women have, that the idea of this masculine leadership is, deeply embedded from childhood, and, in the shapes that we recruit and we evaluate and we promote leaders across all sectors, including diplomacy. And while Pakistan has had a female prime minister and a female National Assembly speaker, there still has not been that shift culturally in the mindset locally. So, given your role in the academia, what must the academic and educational institutions, what role must they play, not just in producing, technically qualified women? As we said, that the issue is not capability, it is opportunity, and how this sector, the sector of education, can actively dismantle the cultural expectations which are held of women, and which disqualify them a lot of times before they even apply, and what that looks like in the Pakistani context. Over to you, Dr. Humaira.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ms. Aisha. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, I belong to academia from last 20 years, and this is really a big problem in our institutional era, that there is a lack of opportunities for the women and as a leadership, because as example, you can see there is a lot of universities in Pakistan, but unfortunately there is a few number of vice chancellors. They are leading, they are playing a leadership role. Maybe we can mention few of them. They are playing a key role in the women universities, not overall the universities. So I would like to say that this at this level, if we will say this is a discrimination, because there is no, we can see the real leadership of the women, we can examine in the institution of every level globally. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I would like to say, we live in a society where leadership has long been defined through a narrow lens, often associated with authority, dominance, and traditionally masculine traits. From early, often childhood, girls are subtly guided towards role of care, modesty, and silence, while boys are encouraged to be assertive and outspoken. This process of socialization continues through schools, universities, and professional environments, creating invisible barriers for women. As a result, even highly qualified and capable women often face hesitation, lack of confidence, or structural resistance when they aspire the leadership positions, especially in areas like diplomacy, governance, and policy making. This is where institutions like SDPI play a transformative role. Through its campaign and policy advocacy. SDPI emphasizes that empowering women leaders is not just a social necessity, it is a national and global imperative. However, policy alone is not enough. The real change must begin with the educational institutions. University and schools are not just a center of knowledge. They are spaces where identities and where the identities are formed, confidence is built, and leadership qualities are nurtured. Therefore, educational institutions must actively challenge and dismantle deep-rooted gender stereotypes. First, curriculum must be reformed. Our syllabi should include the contribution of women leaders, writers, and thinkers, especially from our own cultural and literary traditions. When students read voices like Fahmida Riaz or Kishwar Nahid, they encounter powerful examples of resistance, expressions, and intellectual leadership. Second, classroom must become inclusive spaces. Teachers should encourage female students to speak, debate, and lead discussions. Confidence is not inborn trait. It is developed through opportunity and encouragement. Third, institutions must provide leadership platform, debate society, student councils, research forums, and seminars should actively ensure women participations, not as a formality, but as a meaningful engagement. Fourth, mentorship is essential. Senior faculty must guide and support young women, helping them and navigate both academic and professional challenges. Finally, we must address the hidden curriculum. It is very important. The attitude, behaviors, expectations that exist beyond the textbooks. Respect, equality, intellectual freedom must be practices, not just preached. The STPI campaign reminds us the empowering women leader is not just about giving special favors. It is about removing unfair barriers. It is about creating a system where talent, regardless of gender, can flourish. In conclusion, if we would truly want to see women in a top diplomatic and leadership roles, like Secretary of the UN, we must begin from the foundation. Educational institutions must act as agent of change, challenging stereotypes, cultivating a new generation of confidence, capable women leaders. So STPI has a good history in this way because they have already worked in the textbook curricula. They have already worked with Shafkat Munir Sahib it was very remarkable study, which was about the hate speeches in textbook. Ahmad Salim was the key researcher of that project. So we can repeat this tradition through STPI, that we can see the gender lens in the textbooks. So we can find another study, we can find some direct proofs from the textbooks that we can be discussed in the policymakers, in the parliaments, and the educational setup. So they must have to revise and they must have to add some new examples, leadership examples, real leadership examples from our cultures. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Humaira, for sharing these insights and for highlighting the importance of removing barriers in the educational institutions, since they are the primary institution where children socialize and learn their gender roles. Now, I would like to request all of our speakers if they can share one very solid and actionable policy recommendation for our policymakers, for our civil society, and for the diplomats to as to what they should do right now to advance women leaderships in all sectors at all levels, at the international and also the national level, and what are the one major current barrier is and how it can be overcome. So I will again begin with Ms. Shaista Parvez, if she can please share one major barrier and also the recommendation to overcome it.
Thank you. One thing I would get the moment, our target and our goal should be how to move forward in ensuring that we manage to have a female UN General Secretary. For that, I think we have to work out a strategy. It has to be like how to approach, who to approach, and to move forward. Our target at the moment is not something, it's good that we've had an insight of Pakistan, and who knows better than me of what the problems are at Gender Mainstreaming Forum and what we have, the impediments, and yet the women in our country are doing so well. So I think together we should work out a plan, how to approach, who to approach, and what to do. I think that Dr. Shafkat Saab and you all sitting here, and Humaira, with a lot of exposure and lot of knowledge, if we can plan out a roadmap, how should we move forward? How do we need to involve our government? I know we need to involve our governments. We need to involve our representative at the UN. We need to work out and see how UNESCO has worked, how they managed to have a women leader. So I think together we, as I said, we should have an action plan.
Thank you.
We can come up with suggestions, not immediately, but we can have a very quick meeting in just 1 or 2 days with one very strong suggestion each one of us can have.
Sure. That's very insightful remarks. Now we can move on to Ms. Humaira Mufti, if she has any important recommendations that she would want to share, please. Ms. Humaira, you are muted. We cannot hear you.
I would definitely support what Ma'am Shaista Parvez has said, that we need to have a roadmap, and for that to happen, you need to know what the government policy is. If the government of Pakistan is supporting a woman candidate,
Yeah, exactly.
so first we have to ensure that we are supporting one woman, strong 2-3 women from Pakistan, and encouraging them to apply. Apart from that, the UN system works differently. You may have civil society, you may have pressure groups, but the UN itself is divided into G77 and China, OIC, then Asia Pacific region, then GRULAC. Then they have different groupings within the UN system. So Dr. Shafkat is well aware how these regional groups work, how they push for a position. So even if you have a UN Security Council dominated mechanism in place, which is already part of the procedures, or even if the unwritten rules of the UN dictate who should be the UN Secretary General, so you need to work a lot with the regional groups within the UN system, and it takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of effort to ensure that these regional groups have a position. So not only they speak at the General Assembly, those regional groups also have an influence on the UN security members. So for example, if even for a UN Security Council member, for a member to be elected to the UN Security Council, they have to go back to the regional groups to get their support. So that procedure needs to be understood. The government of Pakistan's policy on this issue, the official policy of the government of Pakistan, needs to be known before we even set out to look at the roadmap.
Yeah.
And also at a country level, I think Pakistan is not going to have any problem suggesting a woman leader for this position. And also there is something where the UN Secretary General has to come from a specific group, from a specific regional group, which has not been given an opportunity earlier. So that also needs to be kept in mind. And knowing that the June is the window, June, July, where everything will be decided. So I think we are already
very late.
no, we don't have much time, especially when you are moving mountains. You need to be really, really prepared. But hats off to you for highlighting this issue and doing such a brilliant research. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Humaira. Very pertinent points regarding formulating a action plan and having a official policy for supporting the candidates, and also having timely meetings with the relevant stakeholders. Now I would request Dr. Shafkat Munir if he would like to add any recommendations, please, to this important conversation.
Thank you very much, Aisha. On your first point, what is the barrier? Barrier is gender profiling of a post. When you say, for example, in your study, also in your presentation, you have shown a slide where were the feminine and masculine roles are defined. That is the fundamental issue within the societies, within the global system. So that barrier would remain, and to remove this barrier, we have to have, as just Humaira Mufti just mentioned, that we have to come to look at the system at UN. So there is a need to reform the system first. Until
Exactly.
the UN system is reformed, because I know, even I would quote here an example, and Humaira Mufti would bear me out if I'm wrong. Even at SDGs, any SDG is not counted unless in the UN bureaucratic system it doesn't reach to a level. For example, on SDG 5, Pakistan is not far behind on that, and women status of women reports are there, but it could not be added globally because 90 countries are not contributing to that. So that's an area, that's an issue. Until we change the post profiling to the system, only then we can see that there is a big change. So before that, at least this is good that this year we have started early on this campaign here in Pakistan and globally. People are taking part in it, but at least we are denting to the system. We are trying to enter into the system with solid candidates, with the solid structures to change the system around the profiling of a post. That is a good thing. I personally know there are more than 20 great, strong global women leaders, those who are heading even the World Bank, big entities, IFCs,
IMF.
even UN agencies. So there are a lot of them. So there, it is not dearth of women leadership. They are there, but this is the system that profile them in ranking how they will handle the security. That's not an issue. So the one thing is that we should clear in our campaigning, we should clear that it is not that the women or men sitting on the post will handle the security. There is a security apparatus who will handle security, or all what they have named as feminist approaches or feminist leadership for some jobs. So that job should not be defined around gender. They should be systematic role, and the system should run it. Even a man sits on UN Security Council position. Did they stop destruction of Gaza? They could not, because system was not supporting the guy. He's a man. If a woman would have been there and system would have been supporting, the woman could have succeeded there. So which means we have to work more on the system change rather just and that is only possible changing profiling, gender profiling of role to systematic profiling. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Dr. Shafqat, for highlighting the very important role that gendered expectations play from both male and female leaders. Now I would like to move on to Dr. Humaira if she has anything important to add to the conversation and any recommendations that she would want to share.
Aisha, I am 100% agreed with all these suggestions, but I would like to just add one thing. In our societies, there are a lot of good intentions for in this way that they may want women leadership, they may have some acceptance, but we need some trainings at every level, roots level, institutional level. So we have to encourage not only in a moral values encouragement, but we have to some we have to need some design trainings, workshops to change some behaviors in this way. So merit should be there, not only favors for the woman or a man. So if we will clear in a merit with the things, then a lot of women can qualify all these seats and all these leadership roles. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Humaira. Now we will take up some questions from the Q&A box that the audience has asked. One question says that I'd like to ask, what role can dialogue and collaboration play in improving multilateral decision-making processes? And what does truly inclusive global leadership look like in today's world? Anyone who would like to answer this question? It's not directed to any specific speaker.
Actually, you are asking about dialogue?
Will it be effective?
Yeah, dialogue to start this discussion. Yeah, I think dialogue is, if we are having this discussion here, this is the beginning of the dialogue. Yeah. So we are ourselves as a civil society or research or at the commission level or representative from the parliament and representative from the universities, academia. These 4 or 5 things are very important that we have started dialogue ourselves to get a position. So position, we already have 4 or 5 positions. For example, from academia, position is that there should be a academic level strong thing which promote women leadership. Hate material should not be there. Gender sensitive material should be in our curriculum instead of discriminatory or derogatory remarks about the women. In our even in the project Dr. Mara mentioned, when we were working on that, in our textbook, these were the stereotypes were in textbooks. So this is a good suggestion that we can start this dialogue from the academic side. Then we can take this dialogue to the parliament based on the evidence. Then we can take it to further policy level, to UN agencies, international level, bilateral government level. And of course, there is a central law of the Commission of Status of Women at national level and down to the provinces and other levels. So this dialogue within our society, then a dialogue between societies, the developing societies, developed societies, then this dialogue will continue there. So this dialogue would not take years now. With the new technologies, dialogue is taking place all across the regions. Only thing is that we should continue it, and somehow we should make a big alliance. Only then the campaign could have a bigger impact of these dialogues.
I would like to add something.
Please do.
I just want to put in that even in the parliament we have a special gender mainstreaming committee, which is looking into every department of the government to see what are the impediments, how much inclusiveness is there, and what are the ways we can have more women at the leadership, in the leadership roles, heading the departments. So that is the dialogue, as Dr. Saab has said, has started within the government and within, I think, world over. But one more thing I would like to know, that now this time we are short of time. We are not going to reach our goal. But do you have any list of candidates now that it will be in June, July, the women candidates who applied? At least we can work out some way to at least start our demand, I should say, to the UN accordingly. If we can sit and discuss the names that are there and how they can be helpful and what are their profiles, and how we can do in this what little time we have left, how we can support them.
Yes, Ms. Shaista, One for 8 Billion campaign. They have on their website collected all of the candidates' information, including their CVs, their agendas, their financial statements.
Okay,
which are
I will.
Okay. I will share with you right after this webinar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists for their very critical insights and inputs that will help make this policy brief much more stronger and relevant to the Pakistani context. And we are looking forward to publishing it soon. We will now move towards the closing of this dialogue. I would request Dr. Shafqat Munir if he could formally close the dialogue and give his closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sadia and Aisha, for taking the lead in writing this policy brief, which is a evidence-based kind of a document which will lead us, support us to take the issue forward, taking this to other policymakers, and through Shaista Sahiba, maybe we can reach out to more parliamentarians. And we can also go to the universities. Even the point on Humera's point regarding less women VCs and no VCs of the mainstream university. And this will help us to go to various other quarters with this evidence that why we should support One for 8 Billion campaign. So thank you very much for your effort and your participation. All the panelists gave a lot of good suggestion. Hope they will support you to reform your policy brief. Thank you, Shaisa Sahaba. Thank you, Mera Ishfaq Sahaba. Thank you, Mera Mufti Sahaba, and all. And once again, thank you, Aisha and Sadia, for your efforts. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.